Happy Friday, everybody. Today on the show, does the Falcons offense get going against the Eagles? Can the Saints offense keep it going at the Cowboys? Can the Giants? No, it can't. It won't. But we welcome you to our Friday edition of Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Well, it's kind of a tough morning, guys. Adam, Jamie, and Dave here. So, it's Friday. I like to be bouncing around, super happy. But it's, kind of depressing with Tua, and we just hope everything's okay. Obviously, suffering the concussion last night. Welcome in Dave and Jamie here. But, other than that, just Jamie, an impressive thrashing by the Buffalo Bills. I may have underestimated their secondary so far through 2 games, still not giving up any big plays, and maybe not the matchup I thought they'd be.
They look great. Pass rush looks fantastic. I don't know how much of that was the Dolphins' offensive line. They lost their left guard in the middle of the game. So how much of that was just poor offensive line play by Miami. But, Tua, before the injury, was not playing at a very high level. You don't see him that inaccurate. And, who knows what was going on there. But give the Bills defense credit. Obviously, they played great. James Cook was a monster. And, that was fun to see. Ray Davis ran the ball well, when he got his opportunities. It's not often that you see the Bills win by 21 points and Josh Allen doesn't do Superman type things. So it's frustrating for Dalton Kincaid. Once again, it's frustrating for Keon Coleman. So people that invested in those 2 guys, clearly more so Kincaid than Coleman. We may have a problem on our hands, but Bills as a team, they look fantastic.
This was the 6th fewest pass attempts that Allen has had in a game in his career. Yeah. 13 of 19, 139 yards in the touchdown. Not what we were expecting by any stretch of the imagination. Also, 2 of his interceptions. He was throwing at Dubose. He was throwing at Robbie Chosen. It looked like timing was off on both of those throws. Maybe a miscommunication with Chosen. I don't know if we can put that on Tua necessarily. That might have more to do with just not having chemistry with his receivers, but it begs the question, why is he throwing to those guys?
Well, I mean, they were making a big effort to take away anything down the field.
Sure.
So, and they were doing a great job of taking away Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
And Mike McDaniel did not have a good game plan. Clearly.
Right. That's where I was going with it, is that Mike McDaniel is known as this, play calling wizard. And he clearly can do it with the run game. Holy cow, Devon Achane. But the pass game, he didn't have a counterpunch at all. And he's got 2 of the best receivers in the league. That was kind of eye-opening.
Well, I think maybe the counterpunch would have looked better if his receiver, if the 2 receivers that Tua threw to on those interceptions, it maybe, especially the first one, obviously that ball was perfectly placed. Second one, a little less clear on. But, yeah, I mean, I think the counterpunch was to keep the ball short to Achane, run the ball. And, unfortunately, the turnovers really bit them. But we got to talk about the Dolphins going forward now if Tua misses time. We do have a little bit of a sample size from 2 years ago. And you will talk about the Bills as well, because you could be panicking over those guys, like Jamie was saying, with Kincaid and everyone else. But only 19 pass attempts. Horrible game script for the passing game. That's, those things happen.
They barely had the ball.
Yeah, they had the ball for 23 minutes and 41 seconds. Also, I don't know if, Jamie, you mentioned it. You mentioned the Dolphins' left guard left, but also Teron Armstead, their left tackle. Sorry, I don't know if you said that. He left with an injury as well. So horrible day for the Miami Dolphins. And, Jamie, we look at does it even make sense to go back to 2022 and look what happened? Because they had 6 games that they played without Tua, including that Bengals game that he left. It was a Thursday night also, left, around halftime. And Tyreek Hill was pretty good. He had 1 terrible game against the Jets. He had 2 huge games. He had 3 okay games. Jalen Waddle was awful in those 6 games. And that was a good season for Waddle too. So, yeah, if Tua misses time and if it was first concussion and he had 10 days, maybe it would expect him back next week. But let's obviously think conservatively with Tua. If he misses time, are you going to start Waddle? And are you going to have Hill as even a top 12 guy?
Hill will still be a top 12 guy. Waddle will be tougher just because, like you said, it wasn't great for him. He's clearly evolved as a player, so that's part of it. You got to, hope that Mike McDaniel does get some better production out of Skylar Thompson, leaning on his players, but it'll be matchup dependent as well. The Titans game, for example, coming up, we know it's not going to be easy for them.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Dave. What'd you say?
I was just saying, I don't know if any game is going to be easy for them. Their defense was out of position a number of times. Two starters on the offensive line might be missing, and their quarterback is out.
They got Seattle and then Tennessee and then at New England and then a bye. So it's not a great schedule for them.
And we might not see Tua until then.
Finishing up on the
Ryan
Dolphins.
Tannehill reunion?
Yeah, sure. with Achane. Sell or just hold him. Let's have some fun. Write it out.
Oh, you're absolutely holding him.
Especially while Mostert's out?
Well, the argument is Mostert has a chest injury. It's not like Mostert has a hamstring or a knee or something. It's not considered serious. And he's played 2 games and he left one. And Achane was on the injury report after one of them. So I don't know. Is this like the right time to sell? That would be the argument.
But I guess, could you sell him for McCaffrey?
I don't know if that's something that I'd want to do.
Oh, wow.
He had the most touches yesterday of any running back since Mike McDaniel became the head coach of the Dolphins. It's tied for the second most snaps played of any running back that's played for the Miami Dolphins. I don't know when Mostert's coming back. I know he's not going to go on IR. That just means he might miss 1 more game, 2 more games. When he does come back, I don't know how this backfield doesn't belong to Achane. The only issue now is whether or not he stays healthy enough for the whole season. But if I knew then what I knew now, what I know now, what the hell? I can't even say this sentence. Achane would have been a first-round pick for me. He looks outstanding. He was their whole offense yesterday, and he basically was a huge chunk of their offense in week 1, save for a big play to Tyreek Hill.
But both those games were when Mostert was injured, though.
I don't think Mostert's going to come back and take Achane down to, 8 touches a game.
No, but the ceiling is lower. And now you have a quarterback.
I don't know there's a ceiling with this guy.
And now you have an offensive line issue at play. I mean, if I could turn Achane into Christian McCaffrey, that's the biggest no-brainer in the world. I
just put up a poll. We'll see on Twitter. I think it's easy. I can't sit here and say that McCaffrey's a bigger injury risk than Achane.
Right.
Though I know McCaffrey's currently injured, but he's practicing. Yeah, so we'll see what people say. I suspect McCaffrey will still get a lot of it, but it's 14 catches in 2 games for Achane. It is extremely intentional the way they are getting the ball to him with short passes. They're either basically throwing it downfield to their 2 big guns or throwing it short to Achane.
Sure. There's so many things about to go wrong for Miami.
Yeah, but a lot of those things were kind of going wrong already. Obviously not the quarterback. That's kind of a big deal, but
I mean, last night they lost 2 offensive linemen and their quarterback. Of course,
you're right, but listen, it's not like their offensive line was really good and now suddenly it's really bad. They did lose their best lineman. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. But I think that they've been working around a suspect offensive line since McDaniel got there. And one of the solutions to it are these short throws and these tosses to Achane. And getting him on the edge with blockers. My goodness, they're using him like Christian McCaffrey.
The preliminary results are in. 35 votes. McCaffrey 51%, Achane 49%.
Wow. Wow.
We'll keep track of it. Any thoughts on the Bills, fellas?
I think Jamie nailed it with Kincaid. There could be a problem there, but at least he's playing every snap. There was a big change in how they played from week 1 to week 2. They used a lot more 12 personnel in week 1. That's 2 tight ends. They did not use a lot of 2 tight ends early on in week number 2, and Kincaid still played a lot. And they tried to get him involved early. I think if the game were closer, we would have seen plenty of more targets to Dalton Kincaid. I'm not too worried about him. Might lower expectations a little bit, but 3 days from now, we might be lowering expectations for a lot of tight ends, given how the season's going.
Expectations, right?
Dalton Kincaid is 10 points a game, and that's a good week.
And a good week, yeah. So far, he doesn't even have 10 points on the season. He has 5 catches for 44 yards on 6 targets. Khalil Shakir, 24% started, 84% rusher. You cool dropping Keon Coleman. He had 5 targets last week, but 1 this week.
Again, that's a byproduct
that's
of the
going
game.
To improve you, or if you need something right away.
Yeah, don't be the guy who dropped Justin Jefferson for Peyton Barber. Just give these rookie wide receivers some time. All right. That is it for Buffalo 31 and Miami 10.
No.
Yeah, I don't think we usually do it on Fridays. I don't know.
We just did, punk.
It's questionable. Okay, so this weekend we got CBS Sports HQ Sunday at 10. Jamie will be on there dropping fantasy dimes. And then we've got 11:30 a.m. Eastern, youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. Q&A with me, Dave, and Heath. We're just answering your questions for almost 90 minutes. And at that point in time, I will have a mustache. I will pay off the bet on Sunday, shave the rest of this beard, and be a mustachioed man. Unless it's not really in yet, then I might just keep it going until it's really time. But there will be a mustache at some point for me losing the Giants versus Vikings bet. We're going to take a break. We got news and notes for you when we come back. We'll update you on McCaffrey and Ken Walker and Jake Ferguson, excuse me, and more. And then we have Beat the Waiver Wire as well a little bit later. We'll be right back on FFT.
A Quiet Place Day 1 is now streaming on Paramount Plus. It's thrilling, terrifying. It will make your heart pound out of your chest. A Quiet Place Day 1, now streaming.
Whoa, that was a creepy trailer. I know for you listening audio, you're like, what are they talking about? They're always talking about the videos. But watch on YouTube and see youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. That was a creepy trailer for A Quiet Place, which is, I've only seen the original. That movie is awesome. Great movie. News and notes. Christian McCaffrey did practice, but are you guys expecting him at this point?
No.
No, but it's getting close.
Yeah.
It's encouraging, at least.
Yes, it is definitely.
He said he's going to play.
All right.
Who knows? After last week, I'm waiting till Sunday.
Christian McCaffrey, 57% of the vote versus Achane right now. Ken Walker missed practice with the oblique injury. Noah Fant practiced in full. Guess Zach Charbonnet's roster percentage.
73%.
I'll take the under.
Oh, I thought it would be in like 90s by now. It's only 71%. Jamie's too good at this game. It's weird. Zach Charbonnet, 71% rostered.
You want to hear what Ryan? I'm just looking right now. What Ryan Grubb said about Charbonnet?
Yeah.
I think Sharp has a lot of the same skill sets, I'm assuming, in comparison to Ken Walker. He's an excellent receiver out of the backfield. He's a very, very capable pass protector and obviously a very powerful runner. So don't think there's anything in the game plan that would change if Ken was unavailable. So for us, it's business as usual. So that's good.
Yeah.
Very.
Jake Ferguson missed practice. Malik Willis is likely to start the next several weeks, according to Ian Rappaport. They get the Colts this week. David Njoku out for this week. Malik Neighbors popped up on the injury report. It seems like he has a minor knee injury, but we'll keep an eye on Malik Neighbors. If he doesn't play, I wouldn't start Daniel Jones. Romo Dunze is day-to-day with a sprained MCL. Keenan Allen still out with the heel injury. So
might be a Cole Kmet week.
Hopefully a DJ Moore week.
Well, yeah.
Would DJ Moore be a must start if both Keenan Allen and Odunze, and Odunze's not going to play, but I can't imagine anyway. But if Keenan Allen's out also.
As a number 2 receiver, yes. I think he's kind of toward the low end of that group. Still starting guys like McLaurin, Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson. I would have started Waddle over him, Devontae. But he makes my top 24.
It's a tough matchup, though.
Yeah, but should be a lot of targets. Maybe even half of them will be near his body.
Right. We're not expecting Marquise Brown. We're not expecting T. Higgins. Josh Palmer's limited with a knee injury. Josh Downs remains limited in practice. Palmer's on the most drop list. You can try to pick him up if you want. Let's see. The Saints have some injuries. Tyrann Mathieu got a limited practice in yesterday, but cornerback Marshawn Lattimore missed practice again, and offensive tackle rookie Talise Fuaga, he missed practice for the Saints.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was Carolina, so everyone was awesome, but he was awesome in that first game. It's a problem if he doesn't play, I think.
Jacksonville is renaming their stadium, Everbank Stadium, to Trevor Bank Stadium for week 1. That's cool for Trevor Lawrence. Devon Vele missed practice. Josh Reynolds was limited for the Broncos. Dalton Schultz continues to miss practice. Let's see. Russell Wilson's getting closer, and Roman Wilson practiced in full, so we might see Roman Wilson. Darius Slayton seems like he's got a chance to play this week. Cleveland's starting offensive tackles. They were limited. They're at Jacksonville. Cleveland's 2 best pass rushers, Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith, they missed practice, but Garrett's injury is apparently not concerning, according to Ian Rappaport. Rams tight end Davis Allen missed practice. That may not seem like a big deal to you, but Colby Parkinson basically ran every route for among the tight ends for the Rams last week. So
also got a great pass blocking grade from Pro Football Focus. So they need him to block, and he's going to be on the field a ton. He's a streaming tight end. That's a good call, Adam.
Oh, thank you. Colby Parkinson. We'll talk about that game later. Penei Sewell, right tackle for the Lions. He's missed practice. And Emmanuel Forbes Jr. for the Commanders, a cornerback, second-year cornerback. He's going to have thumb surgery. So if you want to get in on the action this week, sign up. Use BetMGM. If you haven't done so yet, when you sign up, make sure you use the bonus code FANTASY, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FANTASY. Deposit at least $10. Place your first wager on any game. You're going to receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FANTASY when you sign up. I've got a philosophical rankings question for you guys. I know we don't want to panic after week one. What, buddy? What? Why did I call you buddy? That was so weird. It's like I'm talking to my kid. All right, champ. So philosophical rankings question. Why did you guys move Marvin Harrison and Drake London to roughly 20th to 24th in your rankings after 1 week? Do you view them that way rest of season? If you're making Dave does the trade chart, but London against the Eagles this week, Harrison. Why am I forgetting? We're about to preview
Rams.
The Rams.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you were about to hit me with the music.
Oh, wow. I totally forgot about that. I got to figure that out.
You can't forget about it. It's literally why people watch us.
But if we say like, oh, don't panic on Harrison and London, why are they, low-end number 2 receivers this week?
I mean, I can tell you one guy that jumped ahead of them just by understandable nature is Cooper Kupp. So there's a few guys that just bumped them down. Chris Godwin, for example, like to set up for him this week, and I would start him over those guys if I had to make that choice. It's, look, there's a difference between not panicking and how we have to rank players. So saying that they're top 20 is certainly not saying to sit them.
Yeah, but if I'm trying to make a trade offer for Harrison and London, should I be viewing them as guys that are closer to 20 than 12?
Well, I mean, most people who saw what happened last week or see their game logs are going to understand that they're in a little bit of a decline. Their value is a little bit declined right now. So if you're trying to get them, you're trying to buy them low. If you're trying to trade them because you're concerned or you're trying to get something else off somebody else's roster, you're not going to get max value for them right at this particular moment. It's just realistic.
I wrote about both of them and 3 other receivers that were early round picks who disappointed in week 1. Kind of set a panic meter to them. The only one that I'm even sort of panicking on is London, because he wasn't getting open consistently. And by the time he was getting open on most of his routes, by the time he was getting open on his routes, Cousins was throwing in a different direction. That kind of scared me a little bit, along with the obvious. The offensive line was overmatched against the Steelers. Cousins wasn't moving around very much. Cousins didn't have the same type of velocity on his passes. I'm a little nervous about London. I wrote in the story, I would trade him straight up for any receiver that had a round 4 or earlier ADP except for Puka. And I would stand by that. I don't think that he's going to be right back to being a top 10 wide receiver, which is where we were drafting him. Harrison made a really good point during the week. He said that he was thinking too much. And I'm kind of mad at myself for not realizing that while I was watching him in real time. But when you think about playing while you're playing, you're going to be slower. And toward the end of the game, the one thing that I noticed on film was that he was moving a lot better. I saw a little bit more of his burst and his acceleration. He was getting away from defenders. It wasn't just on that one play that everybody saw where he's got his arm up in the air either. I've got a little bit more faith in Marvin Harrison. So that's why I have Harrison ranked out of London this week. Plus, I still believe in this Philadelphia pass defense. I know that the Packers ripped him up. Some of those throws were on plays where Love had to get out of the pocket, and he did. I don't know if Cousins will be able to do that. I don't know if London will get open as often as Jaden Reed did, or as Watson. Well, Watson at the goal line, that's easy. London could do that. Bottom line is this. I think they are number 2 receivers for now. I invite everybody to read the story on CBS Sports if you want to know what's up with Devontae Adams, Olave, and one other receiver, Garrett Wilson. What's up with them after the first week of the season and whether or not you should panic on them.
All right, good stuff. And that's honestly, I can relate to Marvin Harrison. That is usually my problem is I am thinking too much. It's just,
oh my God. It's
and you're also slow.
Yeah, that's true. All right, one question for each game. Tampa Bay is at Detroit.
Your dad's more successful than you. Let's see what else.
God, everyone's more successful than I am. Yep, Jameson will. Okay, so we talked yesterday about guys like George Pickens and DK Metcalf, and we don't love their matchups and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Are you starting Jameson Williams over George Pickens and or DK Metcalf?
Yes.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
I don't think you should.
Why not?
Well, okay. Why don't you justify that?
Well, would you have started Jameson Williams over DK Metcalf last week, knowing how much, forget about the outcome, knowing how much you were concerned about Patrick Surtain?
No, I wouldn't have. But I don't have a great answer for that.
I think the theme of the last 5 minutes is
it's the game of the week, yeah! And I totally get the Jameson Williams thing. I was filibustering there for the game of the week. Hey!
I think that's the first time I've ever heard filibustering in a song.
Yeah, sorry. No, it's totally reasonable. I just had to try to get Dave to rationalize it. Sorry about that.
What I was going to say is over the last 5 minutes, the theme is what has been seen cannot be unseen, and it works both ways. What we saw from Jameson Williams, clearly a different receiver from what we saw the first 2 years. How can you not include that as part of your evaluation as you move forward?
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk more about Jameson Williams later, but you would start him over George Pickens and DK Metcalf.
And you're saying you would too.
I'm doing it in one league.
I don't know about Metcalf, but I feel like Amon-Ra St. Brown could get 12 targets in this game. That's my concern a little bit. But yeah, I mean,
they're down 4 members of their secondary from last week.
No, they're horrible. Okay.
Bucs are, yes.
Starter sit Rashid Shaheed, New Orleans at Dallas.
He's a number 3 receiver if you're stuck. He's certainly somebody that should be on your roster. Should not be available on waivers in your league. It's expected to be a high-scoring game. And look, I know Dallas's defense played great last week. I don't know how much of that was their defense is still going to be as dominant as it was, or how much of that was just the Browns, no tackles, Deshaun sucks, and this is what we should expect from their offense moving forward. So I don't want to have to start Rashid Shaheed, but I'm not afraid to start Shaheed. So 3 receivers in a flex, he's probably in your lineup. 2 receivers in a flex, he's probably not.
Shaheed over Pickens or Metcalf?
No, that's too far.
So Jameson, Pickens, Metcalf in some order, then Shaheed. All right. Chargers at the Panthers. Who's the best wide receiver in this game?
Ladd McConkey.
I think it's McConkey, but I don't know if I'd feel good starting any wide receiver in this game.
Rams at Cardinals. Are we going back to Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yes.
Number 2 receiver?
Unless your team is stacked. Like, I'm not starting Jameson over Marvin Harrison yet.
No, but Godwin, you mentioned him. I'd start Ayuk and Neighbors over Marvin Harrison. Start Olave over him. But they're all top 20 guys.
Agree.
Okay, Giants at Washington. Who's a better flex, Brian Robinson Jr. or Terry McLaurin?
Robinson.
I'm going to be with you on that one. Robinson.
Did you watch Jaden Daniels, Dave?
Yes.
Horrible.
Well, in what way?
Well, throwing the ball more than 5 yards downfield, he was just so inaccurate until the very end of the game when the Bucs were up by 3 scores and really didn't seem to be,
That's when they're also hurt too.
Yeah, they got hurt throughout the game. I don't know. That wasn't Jaden Daniels. I mean, maybe first game jitters or something, but
no question it was first game jitters. But I still like what I saw from him. I just, he had McLaurin open for a 70-yard touchdown, overthrew him by about 2 yards.
Yeah.
And then there was another play where McLaurin was streaking downfield. It would have been a 53-yard touchdown. All he had to do was keep his eyes up. But Jaden Daniels, the default was running. Every time he was pressured, and even a little bit pressured at him, he took off and ran. We love that if we've got Jaden Daniels on our fantasy team. We hate it if we've got Terry McLaurin on our fantasy team. But against the Giants, Listen, I don't know what to tell you about this Giants pass rush, man. They've got 2 good players, and neither of them could do a lick of damage against the Vikings. And I think that Washington will be able to keep Daniels upright in a fairly clean pocket most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to help McLaurin this week. It's going to hurt Daniels' rushing numbers, but I think it's going to help McLaurin.
Okay. No, I don't care how poorly Daniels threw the ball. I mean, he's a must start this week. But yeah, he didn't look like himself. San Francisco's at Minnesota. Start or sit Aaron Jones?
It's probably difficult to sit Aaron Jones, knowing the landscape of running backs, but this is not going to be an easy matchup for him.
Brian Robinson Jr. or Aaron Jones?
B-Rob. I do have Jones as a low-end RB2. I think he's going to have a decent week. I think the receptions will help him.
Sorry. Atlanta at Philadelphia. Drake London or Devontae Smith?
Smith.
Do you agree with my decision to make Atlanta-Philadelphia the last game, meaning it has the fewest tough calls for fantasy managers?
Aside from London and Pitts, probably, yeah.
Pitts.
What about the Chargers-Panthers?
I mean, I feel like the wide receivers are kind of tough, but I guess not. You guys avoid them. I could have made that the last one, I guess. Yeah, but Dobbins is interesting. Let's beat the waiver wire real quick. We have I'm not going to do as much on this show with Beat the Waiver Wire because we have FFT Express where we're dedicating a lot of time to it there. If you need a quarterback for next week, maybe you lost Tua, well, you can go to Geno Smith, who is facing the Dolphins next week. Derek Carr gets Philadelphia. Superflex leagues, Drew Lock and Jameis Winston. I mean, the fact that the NFL is going to talk to the accuser of Deshaun Watson, I don't know. I'm not saying there will be a suspension, but I don't think we can just simply rule it out. But Drew Lock, Jameis Winston, if you're in a Superflex league.
On the Geno front, Miami in week 3, then at Detroit, and then versus the Giants.
Yeah, it's very good.
3-week window.
If Walker is out next week, the Dolphins' run defense is abysmal.
They were rough. Yeah.
Their pass defense, numbers-wise, is held up.
Alexander Madison, 54% roster. Tank Bigsby, 48%. Again, I'm just going to give quick hits here. Josh Palmer down to 68% rostered. Jerry Jeudy has the Giants next week. He's 66% rostered. If you want one of those Rams receivers, you didn't completely miss the boat. You still have a chance to get Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson. And then Colby Parkinson, 40% rostered. This one is, I would say, a deep league stash, but we talked about how the roster percentages should probably be flipped for the Packers guys because Tucker Kraft is running all the routes, and he's 5% rostered. And you could still get the Saints tight ends if you want. All right, let's go to Tampa Bay at Detroit. I just want to read a few odd stats. Scoring was actually up in week 1. The games averaged 45.8 points, the highest mark in 3 years for week 1. But 35 touchdown passes were the fewest for week 1 since 2006. And for the first time since 1989, there were more rushing touchdowns than passing touchdowns in week 1. Week 1 games averaged 376.6 passing yards, which were the fewest for the opening week since 1996.
Wow.
This is all from CBSSports.com. So running was in vogue in week 1, and I guess so far in week 2. Tampa Bay is at Detroit. Here we go. Role of the game. We like to look at players' roles. Chris Godwin, 53.2% slot rate in week 1. It's a little bit lower than his prime seasons, but it's close. And last year it was 33.3%. So Chris Godwin, way up in the slot. Great stuff. Slump of the game. This one's surprising. In his last 7 games, going back to last year, Jahmyr Gibbs has 1 run longer than 18 yards. It did come against this team. It was a 31-yard touchdown run in the postseason against the Bucs. All right, Dave, Tampa Bay's at Detroit. Are there tough calls in this one?
You might think there is with the quarterbacks, but I think it's only if it's Mayfield or Goff. Like, if those are your choices, which one do you go with? I'm going to lean toward Baker Mayfield. I think that he's going to have to throw just a little bit more. I still have some questions about Rachaad White and his effectiveness as a runner. And that could just push more opportunities into Baker Mayfield's hands. Should be a high-scoring game. I guess Jameson Williams is still going to be a tough call for some people. It's an upside play, but we saw the nice volume last week. I think he's going to stick around. I think he's going to be a big part of that offense moving forward. Not that it's going to be a terrible thing for Laporta and St. Brown, but they might lose a sliver of their target share, obviously. Montgomery is still a number 2 fantasy running back.
There's not a person in this game of significance I would sit.
But Montgomery is always like somebody just asked Brian Robinson or David Montgomery.
There's
Right.
going to be circumstances clearly where you're sitting some of these players. Jameson Williams probably the most prominent one, but if you have them, most likely, I'd be surprised if any of their start percentages is lower than 80%, aside from Williams
And Baker.
Sure. High scoring game, take chances on the players.
Well,
in the
Baker
game.
and Goff, yes, their start percentage may not be above 80%.
What about Cade Otton, huh?
Wait,
I
hold
said
on.
significance. He's
Did you
insignificant.
Did you answer this question, Montgomery or Brian Robinson?
Robinson.
Okay. And Rashad White or Jordan Mason, half PPR.
Assuming that McCaffrey is out, I would go with Mason.
I think I would too if it's half PPR.
You starting these quarterbacks, over Burrow, Goff and Baker over Burrow?
Yes.
Yeah.
Purdy?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this should be a good one.
Baker, Goff, Purdy.
Godwin or JMO?
Godwin, you asked that
I'd go with Godwin.
I did?
Hmm?
When did I ask that?
when you were setting up, you filibustering.
Oh, well, I don't remember anything of that. It was a blur. We got a question. Jameson Williams or Amari Cooper, PPR?
Jameson for me.
Me too.
Brian Robinson or oh, that's a not this game. Sorry. We'll come back to that. Yeah, I'm trying to just read questions on this game. Start Tank Dell or David Montgomery?
Dell and PPR.
Nice name there, Hugh. Okay, so we talked about Baker. We talked about Goff. Yeah, we're starting Gibbs. White's more or less going to be a start, but if you have Jordan Mason, fine. Okay, David Montgomery then. J.K. Dobbins or Montgomery?
Not even close for me.
Dobbins.
I've got Dobbins over Montgomery too.
Okay. Laporta bouncing back, we hope. St. Brown bouncing back. Anything else from this game? Am I missing anything?
The defenses don't. If you use Jake Bates in week 1, make sure that he's actually active in their kicker in week 2.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I'm shortchanging it, but no need to linger here. These are starts. Start them. Maybe I could a few more Jameson Williams if we have anything. Here we go. Jameson Williams, Tony Pollard, or Drake London?
JMO.
London, Pollard. London, Williams, Pollard.
Jalen Hurts or Baker Mayfield? We got to go Hurts, right?
Yep.
I'm going Hurts.
Okay. All right. And that's it for that game. Let's go to the commercial break. We'll be right back with the Saints and the Cowboys after this break on FFT.
We need your sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
Saints are at the Cowboys. What do we think? We're going to get a game here? Saints going to show up?
Yes.
I hope so. I'm a little nervous about the offensive line. This is a massive step up in class for New Orleans front five. It's one thing to dominate the Panthers. It's another thing to take on Parsons and Lawrence in this Cowboys front with Mike Zimmer clearly in his bag. I do like what I saw from the Saints last week as far as playing off of play action or throwing the ball off of play action, using motion, throwing deep, all huge improvements. I'm not giving you the numbers, but trust me on this one, all huge improvements after what they did last year. And so if they can keep that up and if they can protect Derek Carr, yeah, we're going to get a game for sure.
Yeah. My stat of the game was that the Panthers, who played the Saints last week, had the second lowest pressure rate in week 1. The Cowboys had the 4th highest pressure rate, according to True Media. So, yes, it will be a step up.
Sure. And to be fair on that, the Cowboys took on the Browns without 2 of their starting tackles or without both their starting tackles. So that obviously adds to the pressure.
Stat of the game number 2 would be about the Cowboys passing game. Brandon Cooks caught a touchdown in 5 of the 7 home games he played in last year. And Dak Prescott scored 21.9 or more fantasy points and 6 point per passing touchdowns in all but 1 home game in 2023. So, Jamie, we talked about Goff and Mayfield being better than Burrow, being better than Purdy. Are they better than Dak? And are you starting Brandon Cooks?
I do like Brandon Cooks this week. I think, again, Ferguson's injury could, even make it a little bit more of a boost for Cooks if he's out. So 7 targets last week, 4 for 40 and touchdown. This is the team that drafted him. He's played them 3 times in his career. 2 of those games, he's been great. Scored touchdown to them. It's been a while, but he's never done it with Dallas. You mentioned Dak. Dak's last 5 home games over 33 PPR, 33 fantasy points per game on average. His last 5 home openers, he's been fantastic as well. The one was that he didn't do have a good game was when he broke his thumb. So he's good in this spot. So yeah, Dak should have a big game. It's a step up in competition for the Dallas defense also because of what Dave said. They played a Browns team. I know the Saints offensive line's a little banged up right now too, but they played a Browns team that was banged up on the offensive line. And I think at this point, Derek Carr's better than Deshaun Watson. So, we'll see how that goes from an offensive standpoint for New Orleans and a defensive standpoint for Dallas. But yes, I think Dak's, not to divert from the question, but Dak's a great start this week.
Do you have Dak over both Mayfield and Goff?
I believe so.
I've got him sandwiched between the two. I've got Mayfield. I think I have Mayfield, Dak, Goff in my rankings. So it's a close call for me. I wouldn't say it's bad to start Dak over Baker, especially if there's no Marshawn Lattimore in that Saints secondary.
Question from the chat: Dak or Kyler?
Kyler.
I do have Kyler higher.
Question from the chat: Cooks, JSN, or Jaden Reed?
I think it's got to be Cooks. Like, I know I don't have him ranked as high as I'm saying right now, but 9 touchdowns in his last 13 games, going back to last year. Clearly the number 2 guy. And Jamie, I don't think you mentioned this. The Cowboys aren't really great at running the ball.
Yep.
Or at least they weren't against Cleveland. It's Cleveland. And their run defense is supposed to be good. But it's still a humongous question mark. Dowdle disappointed. Zeke is Zeke. They don't have a solution there. So this might be a game where Dak has to throw. This might happen for the rest of the season where Dak just has to throw like crazy.
They also I do have Dak. I have Dak 9, Baker 10, Goff 11.
Okay, Dak. Okay, and who? So we talked about this on Tuesday with the waiver wire, but Cooks versus Shaheed was a nice debate that we had there. Who do you have higher in this game?
I have Shaheed higher.
I'll go back to what I said Tuesday. Short-term Cooks, long-term Rashid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good with Olave this week?
Good with Olave.
Again, hopefully competitive game. Much more competitive. It should be much more competitive.
Yeah, I know. It's a statement. It's a statement game, I think, for the Saints. They don't have to win, but be competitive. It's not the Cowboys. They destroy teams. They play so many uncompetitive games, but the Saints hopefully can.
Yeah, I mean, look, he threw 23 times. Derek Carr did last week. He missed on 4 attempts. He threw for 3 touchdowns and 200 yards. Like, you're probably looking at least 10 more attempts.
Are you starting him? Are you considering him as a streamer?
He's a decent 2 QB super flex start this week. He's not a must start guy in a 1 quarterback leagues. We're not there yet, but I mean, he has another game like that, where he's north of 20 fantasy points, then he's going to be in that conversation, especially for the Tua and Jordan Love managers.
All right, here's a question from the chat. We'll make it kind of a season-long discussion, I guess, but from Aaron, any chance Rico Dowdle takes over the Cowboys' backfield?
I hope so.
Absolutely within the realm of possibilities.
Brandon Cooks or Javonte Williams, PPR?
Cooks.
I think I'd definitely go Cooks.
Okay. So,
in order to ask a question live, you have to be a subscriber, right?
Yes.
So if you're watching and you want to have your question answered, or if you're listening and you want to eventually watch us on YouTube, find us on YouTube, Fantasy Football Today, hit the subscriber button, please.
Someone's asking if I'm wearing the same shirt again. I've actually never worn this shirt. I bought this shirt on Saturday. This is my first time wearing it.
Let's see it. All I see is that it's blue.
Yeah, it's blue. It's got this kind of trim,
Looks like pajamas.
It does. That's the thing. I put it on. I'm like,
like you're like one of the extras in Star Trek. Like you're the guy that's going to get killed when they go to a different planet.
Right.
I don't really get that reference. I've never seen it, but I definitely can't wear this out. I feel
Are you a Trekkie, Jamie?
I mean, I watched it when I was a kid.
I've never watched Star Trek. I was always Star Wars.
Paramount Plus.
I can catch up.
Oh my! By the way, Lego Star Wars out today. My boy wrote it. Very proud.
Nice.
Yeah. Alvin Kamara is starting in PPR. In non PPR, you don't have to start him, but
you kind of do.
When you listen, Since part of the bet is you have to go to school to pick up your kids, don't wear that shirt
Look at this.
with the mustache.
Go ahead, Debo. Throw that up there. Oh my God. Oh my God. It is that. Oh, that's terrible.
What does he say? Live long and prosper.
Oh no.
That is amazing.
The same shirt as this guy. Oh,
That guy kind of looks like Shafee T.
he does look like him. Oh no, this is
Was
terrible.
Schaefer on Star Trek?
I got to return this. Okay. Anyway, Kamara, Olave.
Now I got to start looking up.
What do we think, Jamie? What do we think about the tight ends for the Saints?
I think Taysom Hill's a must start. It's he had 5 carries in that game, and you noted this. 4 of them were early in the game when the game was competitive. So there's touchdown potential if they get near the goal line. I think he'll have a couple more catches. Just only had 1 in the first game. Juwan Johnson's a good streamer. When you get to know Foster Moreau and the way that this offense is going to operate, I think it's going to be tight end friendly. I was a little disappointed that Moreau was playing ahead of Juwan Johnson last week because I do think Johnson's the better player. So now he gets an opportunity to prove himself. And in a game where they could be chasing points, I think the targets will be up. So
He's practiced in full, by the way. I didn't see this. I'm sorry.
did he clear a concussion protocol?
Not yet, but he
trending in that direction. Yeah.
practiced in full. So that's a good sign for Foster Moreau, which is a bad sign for Juwan Johnson.
Potentially.
Do you like Hill over Johnson?
Oh, yes.
And I've got Komet over Johnson. Are you like that or no?
I'm not there yet, but we'll see if Keenan Allen's up.
No, because Gerald Everett is too much of a factor, no?
Yes.
Well,
he
if
is,
Keenan Allen's
unfortunately.
out, you're going to see a lot of Komet.
Okay, so by the way, people are saying I couldn't wait to wear my Halloween costume.
So
That's great. So what about Jake Ferguson? If he plays, is he obviously better than the Saints guys or no?
yes. Not Taysom. I still start Taysom over him just because a little concerned with the knee.
Yeah. What about Isaiah Likely versus all these guys?
Ahead of him.
Okay.
Likely ahead of Hill. Both guys ahead of Johnson.
And we're still sitting the Cowboys running backs?
Yes. Until they boldly go where no man has gone before. You can't trust them.
This is great. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, I can't believe, this is what happens when I go shopping without my wife. She never would have let me buy a shirt. The Chargers at the Panthers. Stat of the game. This game features the 5th and 6th most
I
dropped.
can't take you seriously.
This is what made you not take him seriously?
It's worse than Dan's shirt.
Not that bad. I mean, come on. It's like a normal shirt.
I don't think anything beats Dan's shirt.
Oh, no, it does. Come on. That is so not fair. All right, stat of the game for Chargers and Panthers. This game features the 5th and 6th most dropped wide receivers in CBS Sports Leagues. Deontay Johnson is down to 82% rostered,
Wow.
and Josh Palmer is 68% rostered. Are these overreactions?
Everybody saw Bryce Young in week 1 and did the SpongeBob meme, I'm a head out on this offense. And they bailed on Deontay Johnson. I don't want to start either of these guys this
Yeah,
week.
but you want to pick them up if you saw Johnson.
Palmer makes sense still because I don't think it's crystal clear that McConkey is the number 1 guy when they have to pass. It's going to be a little bit sparing when they have to pass. They didn't need to pass that much against Vegas. They're not going to have to pass that much this week. And then they play Pittsburgh next week. Week 4, Kansas City at home. I'll take the over on 30 pass attempts for Justin Herbert there.
These these receivers are like Klingons. You want to avoid them.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Let's Chargers running backs are the real story here. Because Jamie's got Dobbins in the top 12. You have him around 20. Jamie is leaving the show.
I wish I knew Star Trek better. We'd be able to make all kinds of jokes. While he's gone, the thing about they're naming the stadium in Jacksonville after Trevor Lawrence.
Well, he has a partnership with Everbank, whatever. So it's Trevor Bank or whatever.
Well, you know who helped make that happen?
Who?
Con!
Okay. Dave, you have Dobbins 20th, while Jamie has him 12th. So I guess
he had a couple of bad runs last week, but for the most part, he looked like his old self. The one play where the Raiders should have had him down after 1 yard and he broke out of a tackle, sped away for, I want to say, like 46 yards. He had 2 other explosive runs. He had the touchdown. I don't see here's the stat that I found. If you take away his 2 biggest runs, it was over 100 yards in those 2 runs. Adam's taking Jamie off the stream.
no, not me.
Oh, Jamie took himself off?
Oh, yeah.
This is great.
All right, you go ahead. So
Hold on. You take away.
Yeah,
let me get myself together here. All right, you take away the 2 big runs by Dobbins, and it was over 100 yards combined on those 2 runs. He still averaged more than a yard per carry than Gus Edwards. So unless Jim Harbaugh's glasses are just fogged up, can't see what he's looking at with the film, then we should see more of Dobbins than Gus this week. And it's amazing. Carolina lost their best run stuffer on the D-line. They gave up over 2 yards before contact last week. I think the Chargers run game is on a different planet.
All right, J.K. Dobbins or Zach Charbonnet if Ken Walker's out?
Dobbins.
I think I'd say Charbonnet because I think he'd see more touches.
J.K. Dobbins or Derrick Henry?
Dobbins.
I'll take Henry.
Gus Edwards or a Cowboys running back?
Gus.
Definitely Gus over Rico.
Robert Thomas saying that this show is boldly going where no show has gone before. I like that. This Jaguar Stadium.
I don't know where this show is going.
Great enterprise. These are funny. We got some good ones. Okay, so other than Dobbins, is there anyone that you want to start in this game? Last thing on Dobbins. I know I mentioned this before, but he played every third down snap. He's also their third down back. Okay, is there anyone you want to start in this game other than J.K. Dobbins?
Want to start? Chargers defense. Cameron Dicker.
Gus over Tuba Hubbard?
Yes.
Okay. Deontay Johnson. Well, I think you already said that McConkey's your highest ranked receiver in this game, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So McConkey then, or whatever. Whatever. What am I doing here? Just fishing. Okay. Rams. Let's go to the Rams and the Cardinals. Stat of the game.
If you need some help, just call Scotty.
Rams and Cardinals. Arizona, this is according to Movoto.com. Here's your stat of the game. Arizona was good to music in the 90s. The Meat Puppets, Jimmy Eat World, and the Gin Blossoms are among others were all from Arizona. Go ahead, Dave, rank them. Meat Puppets, Jimmy Eat World, Gin Blossoms.
Gin Blossoms will be at the top.
Yeah.
I think Jimmy Eat World is next, and then the Meat Puppets last on that list.
I only know one Meat Puppet song. I wasn't a huge fan of that song. Gin Blossoms are, I would say, the most underrated band of the 90s. Love them. Starter sit Matthew Stafford.
Low end starter behind Baker and Goff.
Yep.
Okay. Starter sit Kyler Murray.
Still a must start guy.
Agreed.
Okay. Kyron Williams is a start.
Here I am in the middle of the show looking for famous Star Trek quotes.
What do you think about James Conner this
Con was great.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Right, oh, you saved it for Connor. That would have been awesome.
What do you think about James Conner this week, guys?
Must start.
Yes.
He looked great last week. They used him a bunch. Surprising amount of targets, all things considered, in the passing game. Low end RB1 for me.
He is a RB2 for me. I would start Dobbins over him. I would start Robinson over him. I would start Jerome Ford over him, but still a good starter.
Look at this comment. Dave Matthews Band is the most underrated band of the 90s. Are you kidding? That'd be like saying Dan Marino is the most underrated quarterback of the 90s. Like, come on, the Dave Matthews Band? Underrated? James Conner or David Montgomery?
Connor.
Connor over Montgomery.
James Conner or Malik Neighbors?
I believe I have Connor over Neighbors this week.
All right. Last one. James Conner or Dobbins?
I'll take
Dobbins for Jamie. Conner for Dave. Marvin Harrison is a number 2 receiver, but we're going to start him. Cooper Kupp, is he like wide receiver 1 this week?
Yes.
For me, he's number 4.
Okay, start Cooper Kupp. So, Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson, who do you prefer? Did either of them crack the top 36?
Neither of them are in our top 48 consensus rankings. I think Jamie might have put DeMarcus like at 48. Not to speak for you, Jamie. I'm sorry for doing that, but
He's in that range, yeah.
Just something that I noticed. I also wrote up how I think the Rams could go about replacing Nakua, studied what they said. I think we're going to see Tyler Johnson on the field a lot. I'm in 2 leagues, 14 teams, triple flex with a bunch of other fantasy nerds. I talk about this league from time to time. I have Nakua in both of these leagues. I had to overspend on Fab to get Tyler Johnson on my teams because there's literally nothing on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
And I think he could have a game like Khalil Shakir had last night. So I'm not saying he's going to go out there and be great. There's probably more upside for Demarcus Robinson, but I believe that it'll be Tyler Johnson playing the Nakua role. However, if I'm in a keeper league, not because I think winning, or if I'm in a dynasty league, what the hell? I'll say both. Jordan Whittington needs to be rostered. He barely played in week 1, but he had a jet sweep carry for a touchdown that got called back. And that's just an example of the coaches recognizing what he can do as far as speed goes. And so if he gets an opportunity to play, I don't think he'll play much at first, but he could end up, he had a great camp. He could end up being a part of this offense as a short-term fix for Nakua if Tyler Johnson, who's fizzled out over his entire career, fizzles out again.
This is the magic of Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford that we're going to see, because I think 1 week we're going to get a lot of Kyron Williams in the run game and still Cooper Kupp. I think 1 week we're going to get a lot of Colby Parkinson and Whittington and Cooper Kupp. We're going to get 1 week of Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson and Cooper Kupp. So there's going to be one constant, and then we'll see some other things at play here. So I don't think the Puka Nakua role matters unless it's Puka Nakua.
I'm starting Demarcus Robinson in at least 2 leagues, and they're both 3 receiver PPR. Maybe one's a 14-team 2 receiver PPR league, but not a 12-team 2 receiver league. That's no. But I'm starting Robinson because I lost Puka in 1 league and the other one's kind of deep. But I just think I think he'll get. Look, I was dead wrong about Josh Palmer last week, although Palmer did drop a touchdown. But I was like, yeah, you throw Palmer out there, you should get 10 or more PPR points. I think I even said 12 for him. That's kind of how I feel about probably both these guys. I feel like they're not going to kill you, So I don't know.
Well, one might.
It might, but they throw so much. I just want this game to be competitive. I want this game to be competitive and high scoring.
But they can run on the Cardinals. That's the thing. Like, this could be a huge Kyron Williams.
Can they?
Hey, man, the Cardinals' run defense was a lot better than the Dolphins' run defense, right?
And the offensive line is an absolute mess for.
Yeah, but this is a McVay thing.
No, they will run.
It's going to be a tough one for McVay to come back. They might be down 4 starters in this game up front.
Wow.
4.
Cole, we have
2
some
for
questions here. Colby Parkinson or Jake Ferguson?
If Fergie plays, it's Ferguson.
Yes.
Kyler Murray or Jaden Daniels?
I'd go Daniels.
I would go with Daniels.
Colby Parkinson or Evan Ingram?
Ev.
I'm close on these 2, but Ingram still.
Wow. Hoobastank is the real underrated band. That's a great riff. All right, I'll see if we have any more questions for this game. Okay, there's more to talk about here, I think. So, who's a better flex, James Conner or Marvin Harrison?
Connor.
Yes.
Marvin Harrison or Rashid Shaheed is a question here.
Oh, no, see, we're not going there with Marvin Harrison after 1 game.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Colby Parkinson or Taysom Hill in PPR?
Taysom.
Tay.
Sorry, clicked the wrong thing there. And Greg Dortch, 6 catches, 47 yards on 8 targets. Any interest here?
Same thing said on Tuesday. Like, if you need 10, 11 PPR points, he's probably going to be in that range most weeks. If you need 15 to 18 PPR points, you just better pray he scores a touchdown. But he's going to be among the target leaders consistently. He's going to be a factor consistently. I think he's just one of those guys that you can keep on the end of your bench, or if you're desperate, you start him.
All right, we got this question. We'll end on this. Trevor says, pick 2, Nico Collins, Marvin Harrison, Rashee Rice.
You're sitting Marvin.
Yeah, there's one where I'll sit Marvin.
Right. He's a start, but he's not a top 12 guy. Right. Start Trey McBride, sit the DSTs, start Kyron Williams, and let's go to the Giants and the Commanders. Updated stat of the game. Now, Washington has allowed 75 yards or a touchdown to 30 wide receivers in their last 19 games. So, holy moly. They were horrible against receivers last year, horrible in week 1 against Tampa Bay. Now, here come the Giants. We are going to sit Daniel Jones. Any interest in Devin Singletary this week?
Not a bad flex.
Okay.
He's outside of my top 24. I do have him ranked ahead of DeAndre Swift, Javonte Williams, Gus Edwards, Chase Brown, Alexander Madison, Austin Eckler.
Interesting. Higher
Yeah,
than
I think the matchup is decent enough for Singletary. And listen, the game got out of hand early last week for the Giants, and so Singletary didn't get a lot of work. I wonder if they give him a little bit more and have the chance to give him a little bit more this week.
The work in the passing game should matter here. I mean, as we saw last week, big game for Rashad White.
And by the way, we talked about how Jaden Daniels looked. One thing Jaden Daniels did a lot was check down. I know we're talking about the Giants here, but just on the other side, even if Brian Robinson's coming off the field on third down, the catches could still be higher than we
The amount of
thought.
targets is Eckler.
Yeah. And just a lot of check downs, wide receiver screens, a lot of really short passes for Jaden Daniels.
Which is good for a running quarterback.
It's rare for a running quarterback.
Well, he obviously didn't look very comfortable throwing the ball downfield. Malik Neighbors had 5 catches, 66 yards on 7 targets. He is in your top 18. He is 29th for Heath. If you've listened to the show for the last 4 months, you'll get it. But this is hopefully, this is the matchup. If Neighbors struggles here, be more like if Jones struggles here. I sent Dave a picture on my phone of Malik Neighbors like wide open at like the 2-yard line, and Daniel Jones has a clear path to throw to him, and he runs. It's just it was unbelievable. All right, so start him. So over Marvin.
How that happened to both of the top rookie wide receivers in week 1.
Yeah, I mean this is a little bit different than that play.
A little bit, but
Jaden Daniels. Who are the quarterbacks you're starting over Jaden Daniels this week?
the big 4: Allen, Richardson, Jackson, Hurts, and Mahomes.
Yep.
Wait, the big.
It should be the big 4: Allen, Jackson, Hurts, and Mahomes.
He's 6 for me behind the 4 that we drafted first and Richardson.
That's what I should have said. I just read the top 4 names in my QB rankings.
All right, you guys are very high on Brian Robinson. We've talked a lot about him, but he is definitely a start this week. See if we have some questions about this game. PPR: Singletary, Tony Pollard, or Christian Kirk?
Pollard.
I'd start. I think I'd start Pollard.
We're starting Neighbors over Jamison Williams. We're starting Daniels over Goff. We're starting Neighbors over Marvin Harrison. Chad thinks Neighbors is going to go wild this week. I hope you're right. I hope he's healthy, obviously. Brian Robinson or J.K. Dobbins. We'll ask this again, but it's from Trevor.
Oh, he's not missing the game against Daniels.
I know. Yeah, they're boys.
I've got Robinson over Dobbins.
Dobbins.
Okay. Jerome Ford or Brian Robinson, PPR?
Ford.
Robinson.
I mean, you can't get a better matchup from a pass-catching running back than this. They were number 1 in most receptions allowed to running backs last year, and they started off horrible against the Dolphins. It's so funny because the Bills in 2 games, the Dolphins running backs in 1 game have almost as many receptions as the leader, which is the Bills.
Oh, wow. All right, you're talking about Ford against the Jaguars, by the way.
Yeah.
Great matchup for him. How about Eckler versus Singletary? Who would you guys start?
Singletary.
Yeah, Devin.
And then here's Terry McLaurin. Are we starting McLaurin over Drake London or Marvin Harrison?
Not there yet, but he's got an amazing history against the Giants. He's played them 9 times in his career. 8 of them, he scored at least 13 PPR points. 3 of his last 5, he has either 6 catches or 90 yards.
He's averaged 17.5 PPR points per game in 9 career games against the Giants. And the Giants are worse now in the secondary than they've been. So we'll see if Deontay Banks will probably shadow him. We'll see how that goes. But McLaurin's top 24 for you guys. And Zach Ertz is a flyer.
Streamer.
Washington's DST is also a streaming option Dave is very low on them.
They're not good.
San Francisco is
Neither is Daniel Jones, though.
so bad. San Francisco.
If Jones plays poorly this week, do you move on to Drew Lock immediately?
They should.
Brian Dable? I think they should too.
Should. That's why I mentioned him earlier.
Easy matchup.
Just saw an update here, by the way. Coach Mike McCarthy on 105.3 The Fan. Jake Ferguson, he's doing well. He did a little more yesterday. We'll see how he feels this morning and set a plan. He's getting close. San Francisco's at Minnesota. Stat of the game. Over the last 3+ seasons now, so the last 3 seasons and week 1, George Kittle has played 55 games, including the playoffs, and he has 40 or fewer yards in 29 of those 55 games. He has 70 or more yards in 20 games. So 6 times out of his last 55 games, George Kittle has been somewhere between 41 and 69 yards. He is so weird. And he hit the 40 mark last week. But, he's a tight end. You're starting him. All right, let's talk about Purdy, Jamie. Just outside the top 12. I think he's actually 16th for you, 15th for Dave, 13th for Heath. Why aren't we more excited about Purdy this week?
I just think you got to get those 2 to 3 touchdowns for him. And there are other quarterbacks I like better. I don't have a problem starting Purdy if he's your guy that you started last week. But I just don't see the ceiling in this matchup against Minnesota. And he was bad against them last year.
Yes, he was. Well, I think he had a good game except the interceptions. But 21 for 30, 272 yards.
How was the play?
Yeah, for 272 yards wasn't that bad.
Wasn't that one of the games he didn't have Trent Williams or Deebo Samuel in?
Ooh, I don't know.
I mean, that would factor into him not being good.
It was the back-to-back poop games for him where he played Cleveland and Minnesota.
Oh, then yes. Then Deebo was definitely out for that game. So, anywho, Purdy outside the top 12. Obviously, Baker, Goff over him. How about Fields or Purdy?
Purdy.
I think I might have Fields. That one I might have to switch. I think Purdy's better than Fields.
Hey, let's talk about Jordan Mason, Dave. You're the low guy on him. I have him 18th. Jamie has him 10th.
I don't think this is a slam dunk matchup, but then again, he went up against the Jets in week 1 and absolutely pulverized them. The offensive line played great. He played great. Am I a little low on him? Yeah, I think I am. I think he's a definite start. I view him just a little bit more as an RB2 than an RB1.
Okay. Yeah. So this is one that's on Sunday, obviously, when we find out if McCaffrey's out. Although, is this a 4:00 game or 1:00? I hope it's 1.
It's in Minnesota.
1:00. Excellent.
Yep. Noon local.
Yeah, there we go. So which 49ers wide receiver do you prefer?
Deebo, especially if McCaffrey's up.
I'll say Deebo as well. But I think Ayuk's back in play. If you had the opportunity to sit him last week, that worked out for you. He was close to scoring a touchdown and making you look silly. I think that he can have a bounce back game. I like him this week.
Ayuk, Deebo. Sorry, of these two, are you starting them over London and Harrison?
Yes.
Both
of them.
Both of them. Okay.
Yeah, they're both. I've got them both pretty high this week.
Kittle or Likely?
Kittle.
George.
Sit Darnold. Keep an eye on him. If he has another good game, we might have to pay attention to it. Aaron Jones behind Jordan Mason, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Aaron Jones or Tony Pollard?
I'll take Jones.
Jones slightly over Pollard.
Mason is about to go to warp speed, says someone here. Let's see. Aaron Jones or Calvin Ridley in the flex PPR?
Jones.
All right. And start Jefferson, sit Naylor, right?
Addison's not ruled out yet, right?
I haven't officially seen that, no.
Yeah.
Would you sit Addison, though, if he played?
I would.
Did I shortchange this game, or are we good?
I think we're pretty good.
How about
Johnny Munt? We didn't spend a lot of time on him.
How about Neighbors versus the 49ers receivers?
I would go Deebo, Neighbors, Ayuk.
I've got Ayuk over him.
And Deebo. So Neighbors is last. Okay, San Francisco's DST, start them up. We are going to take one last break. We have one game left. I want to tell you about the roles that we saw for Devontae Smith and Kyle Pitts. Very interesting stuff. We'll be right back on FFT.
Football action continues. Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances? As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North. It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield.
Monday Night Football, Falcons at the Eagles. Your roles of the game. Devontae Smith had a career-high 54.1% slot rate and the fourth lowest average route depth of his career. So we were wondering, Kellen Moore, slot receivers, all that. It's Devontae Smith, at least in week 1. 54.1%, that's pretty high. Kyle Pitts, we wanted him to be used a little bit differently. So much downfield, always lined up as a wide receiver, not always, but lined up as a wide receiver more than any other tight end. Well, in week 1, he was lined up out wide on only 10.4% of his snaps, the lowest rate in any game of his career, Kyle Pitts. He had been at 26.3% or higher in each of the previous 3 seasons. Week 1, 10% of his snaps out wide, 15th lowest average route depth, 9th lowest ADOT of his 45 games. He only had 3 targets, I think. So I know, look, on paper, he caught the touchdown. He was wide open. It wasn't a great game for anyone in the offense, but I would hope that's a better role for him to get some more catches, more targets, and be a more reliable tight end going forward. We'll see. Sit Kirk Cousins, start Bijan. Algier, 66% rostered. You can keep an eye on him. London, we've talked about a lot. He's a number 2 receiver. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to say about London. Here's a question. London or DK Metcalf?
London.
I'll take Metcalf.
Okay. If you guys have any more questions about this game, go ahead and fire away.
Oh, crap. I've got London 2 spots ahead of Metcalf. I'll take London.
Aerosmith is the best 90s band. That's a good call there. Kyle Pitts. Would you sit Kyle Pitts for any streamers?
Not there yet, no.
Okay.
Hold up. What about Brock Bowers? Does he count as a streamer?
No.
What about Likely?
No, I'd still start Pitts.
I'll go the other way. Bowers and Likely over Pitts.
Jalen Hurts, start him. Stake one. You guys like Barkley this week?
Number 1 running back.
He's a low end RB3. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
All right, start AJ Brown. But how about Chris? We have a question here in the chat. Chris Godwin or Devontae Smith?
Smith.
I don't want to screw up my answer. I've got Smith 1 spot ahead of Gotti. They're both top 13.
And you have him ahead of London. Drake London or Chris Olave from the chat?
I'll take Olave.
Drake London or Zay Flowers from the chat?
London.
Why would you be playing any Falcons from the chat? I mean, you could say that about anyone but Bijan, but it's a valid question, I guess, for London and Pitts.
Well, I mean, if we're playing the week 1 outcomes, Pitts is one of the rare tight ends that scored a touchdown. So I mean, at least give him some credit. And London, if you have better options, then sit London. I don't think is Kirk Cousins going to look this bad moving forward. I hope not. That's and we talked about this with Heath the other day. Hope versus what you know. And London was drafted based on hope. Cousins was expected to turn the Falcons around based on hope. And if hope is out the window already, then you're out on the Falcons, I get.
How about Dallas Goedert? This guy might be a tough call. All those streaming options, Parkinson, the Saints guys, Isaiah Likely. Dave, where does Dallas Goedert fall amongst that group?
He's actually 12th for me in my rankings. I'm not the biggest Goddard guy, so take that into consideration. I would start Bowers, Likely, Pitts, and Taysom Hill ahead of Dallas Goedert.
I agree with all those. The only guy I would start Goddard over that was drafted ahead of him is Ingram.
Someone tweeted at Dave, when you yelled Khan, I literally almost drove off the highway driving to work.
That's great.
That was an amazing moment. Anything else you want to say? Oh, Eagles DST, you guys are actually starting. That's one I don't know. They're so bad. Well, they were terrible against the Packers.
Well, this is the other side of Kirk Cousins. I mean, look, if he continues to look old and washed up, then there's a lot to like about the Eagles defense.
Sure.
And to be fair, I don't know how much you want to judge from that game. The field was awful.
Oh, terrible.
Right.
The field was bad. Better, I think, than on last year. Anyway.
How much can the Falcons clean up in 1 week? Their offensive line struggled. Their quarterback struggled. They have a first-time play caller who's, doesn't have the experience of fixing things so fast. Maybe he can do it. Maybe he can't. But I think Philadelphia's defense is still good. I'm going to take the shot on them again.
Eagles
just in the theme of the show. You hope that somebody named Kirk does well.
Eagles D or Seattle?
Seattle.
All right. That's it for the show. I'm going to update you on one last thing. Rest of season, Christian McCaffrey or Devon Achane, 1,100 votes. and 55% McCaffrey, 45% Achane, and watch out, Jamie is about to lose it. Go ahead, Debo. Throw it up there. There he is. Get the actual shirt I'm wearing.
Why did your head shrink?
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Captain's Log, another good Fantasy Football Today episode. Jamie was on point. Dave brought his thoughts. The short, hairy one ended up being a little too rambunctious at times, talking about 90s bands.
The nice thing is now we know why he wears the headphones to cover the ears.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Later, everybody. Have a great weekend. Talk to you on Sunday. Actually, we have the mailbag coming up later, so we'll talk to you then. Later.